It's now been over a week since WWE's Black Wednesday, where a reported near 40% of the company's staff and talent were suddenly released. And now the initial confusion and shock has partially subsided, details about that day and what happened behind the scenes have started to come out. While some of the more high-profile releases came from the main roster, like Kurt Angle, Rusev, and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, it was reported and later confirmed by those let go on social media that a number of wrestlers and talent were also released from NXT, the full list of which still hasn't been published by WWE. Fightful is now reporting the thought process that went behind firing talent from their third brand, writing the primary line of thinking in releasing NXT talent were people who had expressed their dissatisfaction creatively or had long tenures there without plans. This led them to release names such as Deonna Purrazzo, who had only signed with WWE in 2018, which at the time made her unable to compete at All In, Dan Mather, who had just been in a brutal car accident, and Cassius Ohno, once part of the original Shield lineup in place of Roman Reigns, who has since become more of a player coach in NXT UK. Fightful added that several of the names released had actually asked for their release prior to the coronavirus pandemic, but were rejected. Many others had expressed their dissatisfaction with the company creatively. It's not clear which names had asked for their releases beforehand from NXT, but in addition to talking to Mike and Maria Kanellis over the last few days, we now have another first interview, being the first to talk to No Way Jose since his WWE release. WrestleTalk.com's Louis Dangoor spoke to Jose about his time in NXT and on the main roster, his plans for the future, and how he found out about his WWE release. He also reveals that he was never a fan of the No Way Jose name, but WWE pushed ahead with it anyway.
The name itself? I don't know how the hell it happened, but they were like, do you want to be, what do you think of No Way Jose? I was like, no. And Triple H is right there, and he's talking to Eva Marie or somebody, and he's like, I'm like, hey, sir, how you doing, blah, blah. He goes, no way, what's going on? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, shit. I go, oh, is that a thing? And he goes, yeah, I got it approved today. What do you think? I said, I love it. Let's go.
You can watch the full hour-plus long interview on our brand new channel, WrestleTalk Interviews. I want to give a really big shout out to Louis, who's been doing fantastic work since total lockdown, where he's also interviewed Will Ospreay, Micah Maria Kanellis, Brian Cage, Alicia Atout, Sean Ross Sapp and more. Thank you to all of those who gave us their time to speak to us, and there's plenty more to come. Because we're trying to keep WrestleTalk's main channel focused on our news, podcast and list series, we thought we'd spin our long-form interviews off into their own channel. So please, once you've finished watching this video, support WrestleTalk and subscribe to WrestleTalk Interviews and enable notifications to always on there, so you know as soon as new videos go up. Because roads, where Cody's going, he doesn't need roads. But he actually does. Completely unrelated pop culture reference segue. Thanks for your support on Patreon. He's no jackass, Dano. AEW co-executive vice president Cody has been very public about wanting to own the trademark to the wrestling pay-per-view his father created, Starrcade. Problem is, WWE currently own that name as part of the vast array of intellectual property they purchased when buying WCW in 2001. But Cody has a plan. He's going to try and trademark as many little things WWE might also want so he can trade it all for Starrcade down the line. And now he might have picked up his latest bargaining chip, his own name. Interestingly, WWE have let the trademark for Cody Rhodes expire on April 12th, and on April 13th, Cody jumped at the opportunity to file a trademark for it. In October 2019, Cody did say that he could use the Rhodes name if he wanted to, and no one would sue him. But given how he hasn't really used it since, and that he's now legally trying to acquire it, that might suggest otherwise. It seems AEW is paying very close attention to WWE's trademarks and when they expire, in the hopes of getting what they can. Hog wild to AEW confirmed. Speaking of AEW, here's last night's episode of Dynamite in about 4 minutes. After a really cool video of Cody not yet legally Rhodes in his superhero hideout, the Cody Cave. Watching clips of those left in the TNT title tournament, Dynamite opened on the quarter-final match between Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. The two wrestled a mirror image to their Revolution encounter, where it was Sammy who kicked off the offense right away with a vicious missile dive before the bell, beating Darby up all around the ring, including a big splash on a ladder. Leaning into the more heel side of his character though, possibly to work better against Cody's face persona in the semis, Allin won their match by grounding Guevara's high-flying offense and working over his previously injured foot, even ripping off Sammy's boot and sock. Broken Matt Hardy then challenged Sammy to come to his compound if Chris Jericho continues to not say his name. And then, in a really nice touch, directly referencing how Broken Matt is too much for some people, we saw the real Matt Hardy, as though he were a completely different person, who cut a separate promo on Jericho. AEW is really making an effort to fit the Broken gimmick better into their show's reality. And not only is that working, it's actually also giving Hardy's character more depth, now playing as a split persona, with Matt Hardy, Broken Matt Hardy, Abraham Lincoln, Vanguard 1 and Damascus all existing inside the same head. Much like Netflix's Too Hot to Handle, I forget who's in who. After Taz broke down the science behind Kenny Omega's V-trigger, which is a very effective and fancy way of saying, "He gonna knee you in the face!" Omega took on Alan Angels in what I thought would be a squash match, but actually turned out to be a really good 5-minute bout that got over both men. Scorpio Sky got a video package speaking about the struggles he's been through as a wrestler. Stuff like this won't draw ratings, but they really will help build emotional investment from the core viewers. After attacking him last week, Jimmy Havoc had Orange Cassidy's first TV match where, in true Jimmy style, he violently punished him all around the ring like a goddamn goth. Penelope Ford's involvement backfired, which let Cassidy pick up the win, and the best friends challenged Havoc and Sabian for a match next week. MJF has been teasing an injury on social media, playing it up as something genuinely serious in these scary times, and he announced what it was here: a broken finger. How did I get worked by this? Which was followed by his henchman, Wardlow, absolutely destroying enhancement talent Lee Johnson. We then got a video of wrestler Preston Vance depressed and searching for an answer. He was a college football player, but now what? Enter Vince McMahon's satire, Mr. Brody Lee, who interviewed him, remarked on how tall he was, and offered him a place in the Dark Order. This was really fun, but I think there's a much better storyline available to the faction right now. Start recruiting from the recently released WWE wrestlers, adding a biting satirical realism against the worst traits of AEW's rival. Mr. Brody Lee then squashed Justin Law while staring down his opponent for next week, Marco Stunt, in the crowd. The best thing in wrestling right now, the Bubbly Bunch, had its second episode where the Inner Circle cheered up a depressed Sammy by doing a spoof TikTok dance challenge. Who became so sexy and good at dancing, Jericho threw a tantrum. If this was the first seed of Sammy's eventual turn on Jericho's storyline, I'm totally cool with that. And the main event saw Kip Sabian take on Dustin Rhodes, with the hastily added stipulation of Dustin's career being on the line. That brought very little to the match, but it was made up for, oddly, by AEW's more limited roster in Total Lockdown. Just like Zelina Vega and her gang of sexy men feeling more important by taking up a lot of Raw, the faction of Sabian, Havoc and Ford appearing in multiple segments on Dynamite makes them feel like a bigger threat. I think the limitations of current conditions are actually making both WWE and AEW put on more focused and coherent shows. Dustin beat Sabian after some brawling between Brandy and Ford to advance to a semi-final match against Lance Archer, who's going to murder him, setting up a very cool "you killed my brother" revenge story for Cody. So that was this week's AEW Dynamite in about 4 minutes. Let me know what you thought of the show in the comments down below, where I'll be replying from out of quarantine, and click the eye above my head to give your rating. I thought this was actually one of the best lockdown episodes so far, with everything having stakes, Jericho being incredible on commentary, and some really inventive self-isolation promos. This week's Dynamite is 4 out of 5. But last night's Quizzlemania was a full 7 stars. Our weekly wrestling game show Quizzlemania, hosted by Adam Blompier on our other wrestling channel, Parts Unknown, please go subscribe, not only saw WrestleTalk.com editor-in-chief Andy Datson shave his hair live, Wrestling with Regrets Brian Zane lose his Fist Championship, crowning a new Queen of the Ring, we also raised almost $4,000 thanks to all of your donations throughout the stream, which will all go to support NHS charities. Thank you everyone who watched, donated, took part and shaved their head. I'm proud to be associated with you all. And if anything, it really confirmed to me something that I've suspected for a while. When I saw Randy shaving his head, when I saw all of you pledge your hard-earned money, it made me realize I can do anything. If I can tell people to give to charity, if I can make people go bald with just a command, then surely tomorrow I can make Chopper Pete do my Wrestle League music video punishment for me. So subscribe, enable notifications, keep checking back to WrestleTalk's YouTube channel, because tomorrow I'm going to force Pete to sing and to dance to AJ Lee's WWE entrance theme. Dance, Chopper! Watch Louis Dangour's full interview with No Way Jose on our new WrestleTalk Interviews channel by clicking the video on the right, and give us a subscribe there by clicking the little icon next to it. And we now sadly have our first ex-WWE staff death from coronavirus. Click the video below that to learn more, and make WrestleTalk.com your homepage for all the latest wrestling news. I've been Ollie Davis, and that was wrestling.